Have you ever experienced the feeling that no matter how much you try, you just can't seem to escape the constant pull of responsibilities, people needing your attention, and the endless demands on your time? Maybe you've been in a phase where you're constantly available for others, always saying yes to every call, text, or request, even when you can feel your energy draining away. It can feel like you're stuck in a cycle of being there for everyone else, but forgetting to show up for yourself. But here's a thought. What if you made the bold decision to become unreachable, to remove yourself from the constant demands of life for just a while? Imagine what could happen if you started to protect your own space, if you stopped being so available all the time. At first, this might seem impossible. You might worry about disappointing people or feeling guilty for taking time for yourself. But the truth is, becoming unreachable is one of the most powerful actions you can take in reclaiming your life and your peace of mind. In this video, we're going to explore what happens when you choose to step away. When you become unreachable, how it can transform your sense of self, your relationships, and even the way you view the world around you. It's not about running away from your responsibilities or avoiding the world. It's about stepping back so you can recenter, recharge, and, most importantly, reconnect with yourself. In today's world, we are often so connected to everyone and everything that we forget the importance of disconnection. Disconnecting doesn't mean you're not caring or that you're rejecting others. It means you're valuing your well-being first, and only then can you truly give to others from a place of abundance rather than depletion. Now, let's dive into the first point. The first and most noticeable thing that happens when you become unreachable is that you begin to reclaim your time. Have you ever noticed that when you're constantly available for others, your time seems to slip away from you? It can feel like the clock is moving faster than ever, and before you know it, the day has passed and you haven't had a moment to yourself. This often happens because you're responding to everyone else's needs without taking a second to check in with your own. When you make yourself unreachable, even just for a short time, you suddenly find that your time becomes yours again. You can spend it how you want. You don't have to answer every phone call or respond to every message immediately. The best part is that you're not losing anything by doing so. You're gaining the most valuable resource you have, your time. This time allows you to do what truly matters to you, whether it's working on a personal project, diving into a hobby, or just resting. For once, you're not at the mercy of everyone else's needs. This simple but profound shift allows you to reconnect with your priorities. Now, as you begin to reclaim your time, you'll also notice the next shift. Your energy starts to return. Think about how you feel after a long day of saying yes to everyone else, mentally drained, emotionally exhausted, and physically tired. It's hard to focus on your own well-being when you're constantly giving. But when you become unreachable, even if it's just for a few hours a day, you create space for your energy to regenerate. You stop dispersing your energy to everyone around you and instead keep it within, allowing it to be replenished. At first, you might feel guilty or anxious about stepping back. It's natural, especially if you're someone who has been conditioned to put others' needs first. But here's the secret. When you're constantly available to everyone else, you're not giving them your best. You're giving them what little energy is left, and that's often not much. However, when you take time for yourself, you allow your energy to rebuild so that when you do engage with others, you're coming from a place of strength, clarity, and compassion. This is where the true magic happens when you become unreachable. You realize just how much energy you were pouring out without even noticing. The constant emails, texts, phone calls, and social media interactions are energy draining, and they can leave you feeling stretched thin. But when you choose to disconnect, you begin to understand that your energy is your most valuable asset. Protecting it allows you to return to the world with renewed strength and a clearer mind. And here's the thing. The more you practice being unreachable, the more you realize how much you've been doing out of obligation rather than choice. This is the moment when you start recognizing what matters to you. How much time have you been spending on things or with people who don't add value to your life? When you're constantly available, it becomes hard to discern where your energy is best spent. But by stepping back, you start to evaluate what is worth your time and what is not. Suddenly, things that once seemed urgent or important might seem less so. And the beauty of this is that it permits you to let go of the unnecessary distractions that were stealing your peace. So, to sum up this first point, the simple act of becoming unreachable allows you to reclaim your time and energy. It's about shifting the focus from being there for everyone else to being there for yourself. And in doing so, you allow yourself the freedom to heal, recharge, and realign with your true priorities. Now that we've touched on how becoming unreachable helps you reclaim your time and energy, let's move on to how this practice begins to shift your relationships. When you stop being constantly available, you begin to create healthier boundaries with the people around you. This might be difficult at first, especially if you've always been the one people turn to. But what you'll find is that boundaries aren't walls. They're simply guidelines for maintaining balance in relationships. One of the most interesting things that happens when you become unreachable is that you allow the people in your life to show up for themselves. Think about the people you love, your family, friends, colleagues. Often, when you're always available, you're taking on responsibilities that aren't yours. You're doing things for others because you want to help, but in doing so, you're enabling them to stay dependent on you. By stepping back, you allow them to step up, to take responsibility for themselves and their actions. This doesn't mean you stop being there for them when they truly need you. It simply means you're not carrying the burden of their emotional or physical needs all the time. This is a healthy dynamic that encourages growth and self-reliance in others, while also protecting your well-being. At first, this might feel uncomfortable, especially if you've been in the habit of always putting others first, but you'll notice a beautiful thing happening. The people who respect your boundaries will show you how much they appreciate you. They'll understand that when you choose to step away, it's not about rejecting them. It's about honoring your own needs. The relationships that truly matter will thrive as a result of this newfound balance, while the ones that drain you will naturally begin to fade. You'll begin to surround yourself with people who value your time, your energy, and your presence, and that's an incredibly freeing feeling. So, as you begin to realize the shift in your relationships, you'll also find that your sense of self-worth strengthens. You'll start to see that you're not defined by how much you give to others. Your worth isn't tied to being constantly available or sacrificing your needs for the sake of someone else's comfort. When you become unreachable, you reaffirm that you are worthy of your own time and energy. And this self-recognition becomes the foundation for all of your interactions moving forward. In summary, becoming unreachable isn't about withdrawing from the world or rejecting others. It's about creating the space you need to reconnect with yourself. It allows you to reclaim your time, protect your energy, and build healthier, more balanced relationships. And in doing so, you create a life that is aligned with your true needs and desires. Now that we've explored how becoming unreachable helps you reclaim your time, energy, and relationships, we'll dive into how it can impact your mental health and personal growth. Let's continue this journey together, where we'll discuss how this practice can become a pathway to a more fulfilling and authentic life. As we dive deeper into this practice of becoming unreachable, one of the most profound shifts that will begin to occur is in your mental health. We all know what it's like to be overwhelmed by the constant demands of life, to feel like we are constantly giving and never replenishing. But when you start protecting your space, when you make the conscious decision to become unreachable for periods, you open the door to a new level of mental clarity. Let's think about mental health for a moment. When you're always available to others, your mind is constantly in a state of overdrive, processing everyone else's emotions, needs, and demands. Whether it's a family member asking for help, a colleague needing advice, or a friend venting about their problems, these things weigh on your mind, even when you're not directly involved. The constant influx of information, requests, and expectations can be mentally exhausting. Your mind never gets the break it needs to truly rest and recharge. But here's where becoming unreachable can have a huge impact. When you take that step back and remove yourself from the noise, you create space for your thoughts to settle. It's as though you're giving your mind permission to slow down, to process things at its own pace without the constant interruptions from external sources. In this space, you begin to find mental clarity. This clarity isn't just about getting rid of distractions. It's about getting in touch with your inner voice. How often do we listen to ourselves when we're constantly responding to the needs of others? When you become unreachable, you begin to hear your thoughts more clearly. You start to listen to your body, your emotions, and your desires without the constant noise of obligations and expectations drowning them out. This is incredibly liberating. When your mind is clear, you can think more deeply about what matters to you. You can reflect on your goals, your passions, and your values without feeling overwhelmed. You may even find that the solutions to problems you've been struggling with for a long time begin to surface. The act of becoming unreachable allows your mind to breathe, to process things in a healthy, non-urgent way. This mental reset can be a game changer, not just for your emotional well-being, but for your productivity and focus in the long term. Now let's talk about how this mental clarity leads to personal growth. When you are constantly being pulled in different directions, it's hard to move forward in your life. You're stuck in a cycle of reaction, just responding to the next thing that comes your way. But when you become unreachable, you break that cycle. You stop reacting to everything and everyone, and you start proactively choosing what you want to engage with. This shift gives you the power to focus on your growth. You have the space to invest in yourself, whether it's learning a new skill, working on a personal project, or simply nurturing your emotional and physical health. When you start to say no to what doesn't serve you, you create room for what does. It might feel strange at first to put yourself first, but that's exactly what's needed for growth. You need that space to evolve, to become the person you're meant to be. Whether you're working on a new career path, improving your physical health, or pursuing a lifelong dream, the time you spend disconnected from others' demands will allow you to move forward in ways you never could when you were constantly accessible. Personal growth doesn't happen in a vacuum, and it doesn't happen when you're drowning in other people's problems. It happens when you take the time to focus on your own goals, to learn from your own experiences, and to build your strength. Becoming unreachable is one of the ways you permit yourself to invest in your personal development. This brings us to another powerful shift: emotional resilience. When you start setting boundaries and becoming unreachable, you begin to develop a stronger sense of emotional resilience. Think about all the emotional labor you do for others. Maybe it's constantly being the one to cheer people up, or it's offering advice that no one listens to. Maybe you're always the one who steps in to help when something goes wrong. Over time, this takes a toll on your emotional reserves. But when you become unreachable, you stop doing all of that. You stop absorbing everyone else's emotions, and instead, you focus on your own. In this process, you build emotional resilience. You learn to protect your heart and your mind, and you learn to say no to emotional exhaustion. This doesn't mean you stop caring about others. It means you stop letting other people's drama become your own. By stepping away from the constant emotional pull of others, you start to take control of your emotional state. You stop feeling responsible for everyone else's happiness, and instead, you give yourself permission to feel your own emotions fully. This is where emotional resilience is born. The more you protect your emotional space, the stronger you become. You'll find that you're less likely to be overwhelmed by stress or sadness, and more likely to approach challenges with a sense of inner calm and strength. Now that we've discussed how becoming unreachable enhances your mental clarity, personal growth, and emotional resilience, let's talk about how this practice improves your physical well-being. When you're constantly giving to others and never taking time to recharge, your body starts to feel the effects. Physical exhaustion, tension, headaches, poor sleep. All of these things can be the result of too much mental and emotional labor. We know that stress has a huge impact on our physical health, but how often do we think about how much emotional stress we're carrying? By becoming unreachable and creating space for yourself, you give your body the time it needs to rest and heal. When you stop constantly responding to everyone else's demands, your body can finally relax. This isn't just about rest, it's about true recovery. When you're no longer constantly running on empty, your immune system can function properly, your muscles can relax, and your mind can experience the deep rest it needs to truly heal. You may also find that your sleep improves. When your mind is constantly racing, it's hard to get the restful sleep you need. But when you make yourself unreachable, when you remove yourself from the constant need to be available, your sleep cycles can become more restful and rejuvenating. The physical benefits of disconnecting are real and profound. You'll notice that when you take the time to protect your physical health by saying no to things that drain you, your body becomes more resilient. Your energy increases, your mood improves, and your ability to handle physical challenges becomes easier. So, to sum up this section, when you become unreachable, you give yourself the gift of mental clarity, personal growth, emotional resilience, and physical well-being. You reclaim your life, and in doing so, you allow yourself to experience a deeper level of peace, strength, and vitality. Now that we've explored these benefits, we'll move on to the final point: how becoming unreachable changes the way you experience the world and your relationships. This is where the real transformation happens. Stay with me as we continue to explore the powerful effects of creating space for yourself in a world that constantly demands your attention. Now that we've explored how becoming unreachable impacts your mental clarity, emotional resilience, and physical health, let's dive into the final transformation of how this practice can deeply change the way you experience the world around you, especially in your relationships. When you start becoming unreachable, something incredible begins to happen. You start reclaiming your power in relationships. It's a subtle but profound shift. The more you protect your energy and make space for yourself, the less you feel the need to prove yourself or to constantly be available for everyone else. Relationships, whether with family, friends, or romantic partners, begin to shift. You might start to notice that the people who truly respect and value you will step up in new and surprising ways. The dynamic changes. You'll no longer feel like you're constantly the one doing all the emotional labor or carrying the weight of the relationship. Instead, you allow the other person the opportunity to show up for you, to give as much as they take. And here's the key. As you become more unavailable to the draining, one-sided relationships, you make space for the people who genuinely nurture and care for you. This doesn't mean cutting people out of your life altogether, but rather creating healthier boundaries that allow you to focus on the connections that truly matter. For example, think about a friendship where you've always been the one reaching out, making plans, and keeping the connection alive. Over time, this imbalance can be draining. But when you start becoming unreachable, when you stop putting in so much effort, something beautiful happens. The other person might finally realize your worth and step up in a way that feels more reciprocal. This dynamic shift doesn't always happen overnight, but the more you protect your time and energy, the more your relationships naturally begin to balance out. You begin to understand that true relationships, ones that are healthy and fulfilling, are not about being constantly available. They are about mutual respect, understanding, and space. You start to attract people who are aligned with your energy, people who respect your boundaries and cherish the time you spend together. You no longer tolerate relationships that drain you because you know you deserve more. On the flip side, some relationships may naturally fade away when you start setting boundaries and becoming unreachable. At first, it might feel uncomfortable or even lonely. But here's the truth. Not every relationship is meant to last forever. Some people are in your life for specific chapters, and when those chapters close, it's time to move on. By becoming unreachable, you make the conscious decision to stop holding on to relationships that don't serve your highest good. Now let's talk about the deeper shift that occurs within yourself. When you say no more and start becoming unreachable, you begin to recognize your worth in a way you never have before. This isn't just about setting boundaries with others. It's about setting boundaries with yourself. You begin to say no more to the old habits of self-sacrifice, self-doubt, and people-pleasing. Think about it. How often have you pushed yourself to the brink of exhaustion just to make others happy or to keep the peace? How often have you ignored your own needs to meet the demands of others? When you decide to become unreachable, you are essentially saying, "I am worthy of my care and respect." You begin to see that you don't need to constantly prove your value through your actions. You don't need to always be available to be loved or to be respected. You begin to accept that you are worthy simply because you are you. This shift is one of the most empowering things you can experience. And as you cultivate this self-respect, you'll find that your inner dialogue begins to change. You stop telling yourself that you must always say yes to others. You stop berating yourself for wanting to rest or take time for yourself. Instead, you start telling yourself that it's okay to put your own needs first. This inner shift builds a foundation of self-love that will serve you for the rest of your life. Another profound effect of becoming unreachable is how it transforms your sense of time. So many of us feel like we don't have enough time in the day because we're constantly giving our energy away to people, obligations, and tasks that don't align with our personal goals. When you start becoming unreachable, you reclaim your time. You begin to realize that time is the most precious resource you have, and you are no longer willing to waste it on things or people that don't add value to your life. You'll start to prioritize activities that bring you joy, fulfillment, and growth. Whether it's spending more time with loved ones who truly uplift you, focusing on your career goals, or simply enjoying a quiet moment alone, you'll find that your days are filled with things that matter most. This shift in how you view and use your time also leads to greater productivity. When you're no longer distracted by constant demands or draining relationships, you have more energy to focus on the things that truly matter. Whether it's a personal project you've been neglecting or a hobby you want to pursue, you'll find that with this newfound focus, you can accomplish more with less effort. As you begin to live life on your terms, you start to see the world in a new light. The stress and overwhelm that once consumed you begin to dissipate. You start to feel lighter, more at peace, and more connected to your true self. And as this sense of peace settles in, you begin to experience a deeper level of happiness and contentment. You see, becoming unreachable isn't about disconnecting from the world or becoming isolated. It's about disconnecting from what no longer serves you so you can reconnect with the parts of your life that bring you joy, fulfillment, and peace. It's about saying no to what drags you down so you can say yes to what lifts you. In closing, I want you to remember this. Becoming unreachable doesn't make you selfish. It makes you self-aware. It doesn't mean you don't care about others. It means you care enough about yourself to create boundaries that protect your energy and your peace. It's one of the most powerful acts of self-love you can offer yourself. When you say no to the things and people that drain you, you create space for the things that truly nourish your soul. Your mental, emotional, and physical well-being improves. Your relationships become more meaningful, and your life starts to align with your true desires. So, I encourage you to take that first step. Start saying no. Start becoming unreachable for the things that no longer serve you. And watch how your life transforms in ways you never thought possible. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this video has inspired you to reclaim your space and your energy. I would love to hear your thoughts on this practice. How has becoming unreachable impacted your life? Please share your experiences in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content on personal growth, self-love, and empowerment. Take care of yourself, and remember, you deserve the peace, joy, and space to thrive. Live your best life, and keep choosing yourself every single day.